Good morning, or afternoon, whatever. I'm starting this presentation. I'm going to preface this letter. I plan on putting a lot of emails that I have sent to the HOA over the last 10 years about my lot, about track day. Anybody that maybe follows me or seen some of my other videos, you understand that I've been having trouble with my HOA for 19 years. I had a letter put in my file about a month and a half after I closed my last two houses on the 6th hole overlooking the lake in the Sundance active community in Buckeye. And on the day that I closed the last two houses, I was told by a local realtor that what I did will never happen again, that what I did was very unpopular. I was able to tie up 3 lots overlooking the lake on the signature hole. He told me that will never happen again. So about a month and a half later, I had to talk to Star Ballou, and she informed me that I had a letter in my file. They had to put a letter in my file. So the hair's been standing up on the back of my neck ever since I talked to Star in November of 2004. Around the middle of November of 2004 is when Star informed me that I had to put a letter in your file. You had 3 kids living in your house. Okay? And I lit up. I had just spent a year not sleeping building these 3 houses. I took on a lot of debt. I was living in San Francisco, and when they found out that a California buyer had outbid all the locals here, it wasn't popular. You have to understand, we're in Buckeye, Arizona. And Buckeye is one of the biggest land area towns or cities in the state of Arizona. And it has very few people. I grew up in a place just like this in upstate New York, Essex County. Essex County in upstate New York is the 2nd largest county in the state and the least populated. So I know what it's like to live in a large, open, wide open area with very few people, and that's what Buckeye was 20 years ago when I moved in here. It wasn't popular. In upstate New York, we didn't like outsiders coming in, waving their money and being arrogant. And I guess that's what I was considered doing when I came in here and bought 3 lots overlooking the lake. I wasn't very popular. So when Star told me that, my hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I immediately, the next time I came down, approached her and wanted to know who. She said, I had to put a letter in your file. And I said, by who? She goes, I can't tell you. He's too important to reveal. He's a big player out here. Well, what he was is, I'm sure, one of the first people to be put on a board. And in an HOA, when they start out, an HOA starts out, what they do is there's no board. It's the builder. And the builder has a representative to liaison with the current residents as the place grows. But for the first year or two as a place grows, there's no board. There's no architectural committee. It's the builder's call. He has maybe one person or a manager to keep everything quiet and copacetic because they're trying to sell out the community. So there isn't a lot of oversight or criticism of members. And when I bought these lots, I thought I was under the illusion that I was buying 3 houses and 3 lots. Nothing can be further from the truth. When you buy in to an HOA. You don't own your lot. You don't own your house. You can't do anything to it. As the years go by, and like here at Sundance, in 19 years, that list of things that you can't do to your lot gets bigger every year. Every year the list gets longer because every year if they have problems with something that was unexpected, that they didn't like, they put a new rule in. So that CC&R is a moving goalpost. You can never catch up with it. Okay? They're changing it every 6 months or every year to suit their fancy. This is antebellum plantation living. Okay? We have slave chasers here. If you do anything to your lot, front, back, whatever, without permission, and they don't like you, they have no time limit. There's no statute of limitations. Say you were one of the first persons in like me. For the first 3 years I was here, or 4 years, they more or less left me alone. Okay, as far as whatever I did to my lot, because they're trying to keep it quiet, copacetic, and sell out. Once they get sold out or halfway selling out, and then here's the board is something like the Supreme Court. The builder is the president. He gets to put whoever he wants on the board for about the first 5 members. When they get so many percentage sold out, they're allowed to put one person on the board. What isn't unsold, like here in Sundance, we had 1,100 houses. They sold 400. Now it's time to put the first person on the board. We've sold 400 units. We need a board member now. We're going to start a board. Well, who do they pack the board? The builder's able to pack the board. He's got, like here, we got 1,100 houses and the first 400 sold. So that means the board has 700 votes. Every one of those lots that are left in inventory on the shelf is a vote for a candidate. So every couple hundred houses they sell, they put another person on the board. They put another person on the board. They put another person on the board. They're packing the board because they're putting those first 4 people or 5 people on the board with votes from inventory. Whoever runs and tries to defeat whatever reserve and inventory votes they have of houses they haven't sold, you haven't got a chance. They packed the board. And the reason they packed the board is there was a lot of sins. a multitude of sins that were performed out here on this golf course when that sophisticated urban plan came from North Phoenix about 24 years ago. It was sophisticated. When you sophisticate something, you complicate it. Okay? You complicate it with all kinds of rules and nomenclature. And one of the rules out here was all the underground pipes had to have a proper flow rate. Every parcel had to have an access easement in and out of it. They had to have an emergency access in and out of it. Well, those kind of sophisticated rules that come with an urban plan, which came out of Phoenix, an urban area, when it got to bucolic Buckeye, and everybody loves space in Buckeye. The people in Buckeye, when they built this, they were able to, for financial reasons, fraternal reasons, the human nature or human factors of affiliations with each other. When that plan got out here, a lot of it was discarded. A lot of important features, urban features on that plan were discarded. They were set aside. All right? We don't need them out in Buckeye. We don't have an urban population out here. We don't sell to urban people. All right? Most of our people come from the Midwest. And they're not sophisticated as to urban needs and urban models. So, and anybody that's heard any of my spiels before, this is all about Tract A. In my parcel, it was looted 20 years ago. It was taken out of service 20 years ago through graft. But some of you, if you follow me, and I appreciate you, and the person out there who corrected my spelling of lean, I use L-E-A-N for lean on my house, and it should have been L-I-E-N. Thank you very much for the feedback and correcting me. That shows you how scary it is for me to be going into court in a month and a half to defend myself in court against an HOA lawyer. I don't feel I have a chance when I get into court with the HOA. I don't feel like I have a chance. I don't have enough time to prepare a case. But what happened was around 2014 is when they dug out Tract A. I had just gotten out of jail. They had sent me to jail for missing a court date that I never knew about, and the reason they sent me to jail is I started using Tract A as a walking easement. There was a knee-jerk reaction. They got a Cub Scout judge in downtown Buckhead issue a bench warrant against me, and they backdated it 21 months. And I was thrown in jail for 4 days. And I had a clean record up to that point. I was 68 years old. I had just retired from 2 airlines. I have an FCC license. I have a radio and telephone FCC license. They don't give those away. I have an airframe and power plant license I've had since 1985. They don't give those away. Okay? I have an honorable discharge from the United States Marine Corps, where I served in the Air Wing from 1968 to 1972. Okay? I had a clean record. And because my father was a Mason all his life, or not all his life, all my life he was a Mason. Even though I didn't join the Masons, I did a lot of study and historical on the Masons in my 30s, and I had a chance to live with my father for about a year or so in that period of time, and him and I discussed a lot about the Masons because I was truly curious about the Masons. I had been through everything, and I knew from my travels through life that when you get a good Mason, you've got something. You've got one of the hardest working, most civic-minded, most patriotic person in the world when you get a good one. But if you don't get a good one, and they're not in there for the right reasons, if they're in there to have an umbrella over their head for all their sins, that's the wrong reason. So I did a lot of research. I went and got books. He saw what I was doing. And he was true to the Masonic code. He always used to say it. I can't ask you to join. We're not allowed to ask people to join. You have to ask us. And he did that on a day that he handed me his Masonic Bible. I want you to have this. He was near the end of his life. And he repeated, I can't ask you. He wanted me to ask him in the worst way. And the reason I didn't is I didn't think I could live up to the type of Mason he was and the people I grew up with. These were true stoic men, civic-minded, modest. I never thought I could live up to it. I'm no angel. I thought I'd bring shame onto him if I joined, because I couldn't live up to the honesty and everything that I saw in his brotherhood. That was about 45 years ago. So I never joined, or I never asked to join. And now I'm glad I didn't. Ever since I've been out swimming in the ocean with Masons from all over the country. There are some Masons that I'm glad I don't even want to be associated with them. They're in it for one reason: greed, graft, secrecy, getting under somebody, power, ego. I've never seen it like that. Like I said, the old style Mason is like the old style Republican. They're like McCain Republicans. We don't have any more McCain Republicans. We don't have Republicans quietly running around in pinstripe suits, okay? We got Republicans who are mostly uneducated. They don't have any college. And they're used to living in one geographic area all their life. They've been in one place all their life. They've never gone out and swum in the ocean or anything like that. They've never tried to meet and mingle with other people. And they're afraid of being replaced. I know it because I just described where I came from. I'm not welcome back in my hometown. Even though they had drafted me 55 years ago and sold me down the river because I was a loose thread in their town, just like I'm a loose thread out here in Buckeye. I don't know anybody. I was first generation in my town. I got drafted right after TAP. All right. So, but thank you for listening. And anybody that's been listening to my video, this is therapy. I'm trying to work out a lot of things in my mind. But what happened is 10 years ago, I was given permission by the town engineer to do whatever I could to my lot to make it drain. And right now I'm being sued by the HOA because they want me to return my lot to the original, what it was when I bought it. And the problem is that they built it wrong from the start. They got all the elevations. This is a blueprinted neighborhood. They've got all the elevations wrong for the property line and my finished floor elevation. They tampered with my sewer pipes. They tampered with my drainage. And when they got done building my lot and landscaping it, my lot ended up being a retention basin here north of the lake. They were storing water under my house for about 9 years. Well, in 2014, when I had the letter and I had an interview with first an engineer and then 3 people, the board of directors, Edward Kelly, an engineer, Woody Scouten, and another engineer, Phil Marcotte, I was given permission to do whatever I could to my lot to make it right and make it drain. They more or less admitted indirectly that, yeah, your lot was built wrong. It's all wrong. I can see it's built wrong. I can see the drainage is all wrong. I'm giving you permission to do what you have to do to get it to drain. So I went out and rented a tractor and I started moving dirt on my lot. And I had no help, no financial help, no engineering help. I was totally on my own with the permission to do it. Well, this email right here is, I got fined. after a summer of renting a tractor and tearing up the lot and doing things and making it drain and putting in pipes and all on my money, on my time, I've sent videos. I have videos on it. I get this letter around the middle of November from Pat Pension that I've been fined. This is a letter that I sent back to Nancy Batten. I sent it to the board, right here, HOA board, board members. These were all board members. Pat Pension and another one. So I sent this out to multiple people. And this was in the fall, and this was in November of 2014, almost 10 years ago. I had been working on my lot all summer, trying to get it graded so that the water would run off it instead of being landlocked between the houses. Okay, I'm going to read this to you because I sent this out after the fine. This email is to inform the Sundance elected board members and HOA manager Pat Pension that the check for the recent fine was mailed today. Attached to the email is a number of attachments. One is a copy of the USPS certified mail receipt and the Postnet American Express receipt. The second is a scanned copy of the check AAN LLC coupon sent with it. The third is a copy of the envelope the check and the coupon were mailed in. The fourth and fifth, 2 letters sent to me by Pat Pension concerning lot 315. There was no mention in those letters of lot 316, which was also improved recently. The letters were non-specific and ambiguous. Non-specific and ambiguous. That is the mantra of the HOA. Okay? They're not going to tell you. I'll stop here reading this. I'll leave the mark. The trouble what I have with non-specific and ambiguous when it comes to discrepancies. I worked on airplanes for 30 years under the Federal Federal Aviation Administration, licensed through them. The Federal Aviation Administration doesn't like non-specific and ambiguous, and neither do I. I spent 30 years having to be very specific in everything I did. Okay? When your slave chasers go out and write up a yard, which they do out here all the time, they do it every week. They get in their truck and they're looking for discrepancies. When they write up a discrepancy, they hand it in to the manager, and the manager automatically processes it. But it's very non-specific and ambiguous. First of all, in the airline industry, when a discrepancy is written up like that and handed, there's usually a lead or a manager the discrepancy is handed to. That discrepancy is very specific. It tells what chapter, what page, where to look. Okay? For about the first 4 exhibits in this lawsuit that I have to show up in court in a month and a half with, or 2 months, the first 4 exhibits are letters from the HOA to me about my yard. And they're completely ambiguous and non-specific. It says in the letters, more or less to paraquote, you're doing something in your yard, you didn't get permission to work on your yard until you stop until you tell us what you're doing, or ask permission for what you're doing. I had permission. I had permission from Woody Scouten 10 years before, 2014. Well, anyway, I started digging, and by the time that November come around, my yard was all tore up. Not only 315, which she sent a letter for, but 316. They were all tore up. I was doing this by myself, okay? By myself. Without financial help, without engineering help. Nobody to tell me how to route the water. Okay, I lost my... Okay, here we are. The 4th and 5th are the 2 letters sent to Pat Pension concerning lot 315. There was no 316. That's what I say. It's not specific. This shotgun approach. There were no mention of those letters for lot 316, which also improved recently. The letters were non-specific and ambiguous. Those improvements to 315 and 316 were for drainage. Drainage that was compromised during construction when the builder intentionally deviated the stamped and signed approved proposed construction plans. And that's the proof. I got proof. I have the permit for my house. They dropped my house 2.5 inches on purpose. That indiscretion of tampering with the finished floor elevations for lot 316, 317, 318, and 319, and 320 resulted in lot 316 being forever subjugated to the remaining lots as an undocumented, unpermitted, residential retention basin. And you've seen in other videos, how many times do I have to tell you redundancy is in other videos? They turned my lot into a retention basin above the 6th tee, okay, above the 6th hole. They filled in tract A, which was supposed to drain, act as a ground wire for water, a drain for water. They filled it in. And if we were to ever had a catastrophic failure of that pipe underneath tract A, everything was going to go over my lot. My lot was 45 feet away, and it was 10 inches lower, the whole length, than tract A, which had been filled in. I'll continue. Ed Kelly, a board member, and Phil Marcotte, Buckeye's building inspector, both witnessed a statement made to me by Woody Scouten. And Woody Scouten, another Buckeye engineer. That conversation took place after Tract A had been improved in August 2013. The decertification letter for Tract A was written and delivered in February of 2012. It didn't get dug out for a year and a half. Here it is, improved August 2013. About 3 days after the start of digging, a large storm hit the area with winds that uprooted several trees and dropped several inches of rain in less than an hour. I might be a little off on that. It's hard to get a couple inches of rain in an hour, but a downpour, a deluge, several inches, a lot of down. I proved to the 3 men that although Tract A had been improved, the flooding in my lot was still happening, which it was. They dug out Tract A and I'm still getting flooded with a lake between my lot. When I asked Mr. Scouten what my alternative was to the flooding, his statement was, "It is your property. You can do whatever you want to fix the flooding." At least that is the way I understood it. At least that is the way I understood it. Ed Kelly and Phil Marcotte heard this. I will be sending you the next few days video pictures and maps justifying my actions on lot 315, 316. Actions that were taken without submitting requests to the homeowner's management. It is my opinion that individual residential drainage is not a priority with the HOA management. I felt would have I felt for HOA management to approve my request to correct the grading of the lot that they, HOA, would have to agree the lots were made deficient during construction. What I'm trying to say in this sentence is, before you can help me, you have to admit that I was compromised. My house, this they would not do, which means delays in approving any request by me to correct the grade and to remove the excess dirt on my lot. The dirt put there during construction to landlock any water that lots 315 and 316 received during a rain event. It took the HOA management over a year and a half to comply with a decertification letter that was also a job order to bring Tract A back into compliance. A letter stating that someone had intentionally filled in Tract A after it was certified, and I lost my base here. It took the HOA management over a year and a half to comply with the certification letter that was also a job order to bring Tract A back into compliance. A letter stating that someone had intentionally filled in Tract A after it was certified and stamped and signature identified identity theft. Okay? The last big storm was reported as the biggest storm to ever hit Valley. I feel there are much bigger storms ahead. And there was. We had the 100-year storm shortly after that. But here are all the attachments. Okay, this one is the certified letter and the receipts. Here's the canceled check and the check I wrote. What's this one? That's the envelope. And here's Pat Pence Young's letter to me. All right, having trouble. Now, what I'm going to do is, this was sent to several people, the HOA board, okay? Trying to explain that you sent me a letter for something I had permission to do. I'm out here with a rock and a stick alone by myself trying to unscrew up a booby trap. I'm trying to defuse a booby trap that was installed on my lot 20 years ago by the town of Buckeye and the people who certified and the builder. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the next letter I sent to the board, and let's see if I can find it here. Here it is. Now this one was sent a little later on the 24th. Wow. This was sent on the 24th, and I was trying to be as upfront with the HOA as possible. I sent them all kinds of attachments down here. Okay? Maps. Everything. My whole case. All right? How they doctored my finished floor elevation. There was a proof. Okay? This isn't the one I want to show you though yet. I want to show you one before this if I can find it. Maybe it's this one. I sent him this movie on, along with a lot of stuff. I've been communicating with the HOA. This was sent December 12th. Uh, okay, I'm going to stop here. But I'm trying to get out. I've been talking to the HOA for 10 years about my here it is. Okay, I found it. Thank you. If you're still with me, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was sent a few days later, November 20th. And again, it was sent to board members, a lot of people on the board. Everybody who was a board member should have got this letter. Okay? And what this is I'm trying to explain to the board what I've been going through with HOA syndrome. Ever since I got that decertification letter from Woody Skelton, I didn't sleep because I knew my house was compromised. I even had to go out and buy flood insurance from FEMA at over $400 a year on top of my other insurance. My homeowner's insurance, when I found out that that they were using me for the place where water would run out of the parcel in a flood, I went to my insurance person, State Farm, and they told me, you don't have flood insurance. You live in a neighborhood that's flood proofed. Because you live in a blueprinted neighborhood, you have everything there in the nomenclature for a flood. Okay? You have Tract A. You're never going to flood with Tract A if it's working correctly and it's built correct. And then I presented him with the letter from Woody Skelton saying, well, it's not. Here it is. It's been plugged up. Now I need insurance. He said, we can't sell it. You have to buy it from FEMA. So for the first year, like 2014, I think it was around 2012 and 13. 12 and 13, when I got that decertification letter from Woody Skelton in 12, about the summer of 12, I went out and bought flood insurance from FEMA, and I had it for 2 years until they dug out the tract. And the second year I got a letter from FEMA when it went to renew the premium. FEMA wanted to know why I was buying flood insurance in a blueprinted neighborhood. Why are you buying flood insurance? You don't need flood insurance. You're in a blueprinted neighborhood. All the facilities are there so that you don't flood. Well, that wasn't the case. We were in Buckeye. Buckeye is outside the 12-mile limit. We don't have to build them right. We don't have to follow the blueprints in Buckeye. You're not going to try to make us look like New York City with some sophisticated urban housing plan. We got people from the Midwest buying in here, and they're not urban. They don't care about all that stuff. In fact, they don't want to see access easement. All right? Well, anyway, I'm getting off. I'm going out here. The following YouTube link is complete lecture series of Dr. Gary Solomon. The subject of the series is HOA syndrome. Ever since Pat Pence Young informed me in the beginning of 2012 that Tract A in Parcel 12 was a drainage easement, I have been afflicted with said syndrome. I now weigh 30 pounds less than the day I received the letter. My sleep is never more than an hour or two at a time. This is because the Merited Run HOA refuses to acknowledge that Tract A is still not compliant with the original proposed building plans. My properties are under constant threat of flooding due to the incomplete overhaul of Tract A. This is a constant distraction that has paralyzed my daily life. All 101 lectures are contained in this one link. Please take the time to educate yourselves as to the growing problem that HOA governing authorities are inflicting on their dues-paying members. Someday, this subject matter will go viral. Be prepared. And I sent him a link. Now I'm going to hit this link. It's going to come up.
At Cox Mobile, we know there's a better way to save. That's why we run on the network with unbeatable.
Okay, before I blow it up and start it,
I'd like to introduce myself to you. My name is...
Okay, this is Dr. Gary Solomon. I'd probably be in a mental institution right now if I hadn't stumbled on this guy about 10 years ago. Because I was going down fast with what his subject matter is. HOA syndrome. I had it bad. Every one of my neighbors didn't want to talk to me about Tract A. Nobody in the HOA was going to talk to me about Tract A. When I go downtown with the permit that was signed and it's out of compliance, the permit that dropped my house illegally 2.5 inches, when I go downtown with that permit and the master plan, nobody will talk to me. I've been isolated, and ever since I got arrested, I'm missing a court date for that I never got served on because I was participating in civil disobedience. I thought I was back east. I thought I was back where the police would understand that you're making a demonstration. You have a right, you have a civil right to make this demonstration. You have a plat map in your hands that says you can walk here. Well, that didn't go over. And I got arrested for missing a court date I never knew about. And now I've got a police record that I'm going to take to the grave. And the day when I got out of jail, the first thing I did was Google my name when I got out of jail, and there was my mugshot plastered all over the internet. And for about the first 3 years of that, every time I put my name in Google search, here came up my mugshot and my arrest record. All right? I had HOA syndrome bad. But I want to let you know, this one link right here, he has 101, and they're about an average of 5 minutes apiece. He's got 101 lessons or videos on HOA syndrome. Okay? This one's 6 minutes long. But I suggest to anybody who is going through what I am with a HOA and you feel completely hopeless, you feel like blowing your brains out, you don't know what to do, all your friends deserted you, and that's another thing. There's a phenomenon when you have crooked cops and a crooked police force, and your friends and neighbors and your family refuse to believe that they're crooked. There's no way the police could be crooked. There's no way they could be, what do I want to say, corrupt. When you get arrested by 3 police cars and you get thrown in a police handcuffed in front of your neighbors and your peers and your friends and your family hear about it, you're on an island. because they all try to get away from you as fast as possible. They don't want to get caught up in the downdraft of the problem that you're having with the HOA and the police. It's assumed the police were right. They wouldn't have arrested you and hauled you away in handcuffs if you hadn't done something wrong. All I was doing is exercising my civil right to walk on an access easement that was clearly identified on the plat map. And the HOA didn't want to recognize it. And 2 weeks after I was arrested, Charlie Waters gave $32,000 to the town of Buckeye's favorite charity. 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Now we don't have to dig out the easement. Well, anyway, getting back to this Gary Solomon. This guy he calmed me. He calmed me so much because when I understood and listened to him, he goes through all the things about an HOA, and he explains HOA syndrome, what it can do to people, how it can split families, how it can financially. Some people even commit suicide over it because they can't get away from it. It's like me. Right now I have a $60,000 lien on my property that was generated by a bunch of goofballs in the HOA board. Instead of calling me and trying to give me a hearing and let's talk about your lot, we're not going to do that. We don't want to talk to you. We're looking for monetary reward. And we've got a collection agency lawyer right here that's ready to take you to the cleaners. And we don't have to compete with a bank for your equity. I wish I had bought this on time, like 5% down. If I had 5%, 10, even 20% in this house right now, I'd probably walk away from it and give it to the bank. And let the bank deal with the $60,000. But the HOA doesn't have to worry about that. But this fella, Gary Solomon, it's soothing. It's soothing. I suggest anybody who is considering buying in an HOA, do the research. Another thing, if you're single, joining an HOA, I wouldn't suggest it. My problem with the HOA is every time I go in to talk to them or have any interchange with them verbally or in person, or they've got more witnesses. I'm alone. If you don't have somebody you can count on as a witness, a wife, a close friend, someone that will go with you every time that you have to enter the HOA premises and discuss anything with the HOA, if you don't have a witness and you don't, or you're never going to have one, don't buy in an HOA. Don't buy in an HOA. Every time you walk into through their portal, into their, I get physically sick when I walk into my HOA, so I haven't really missed anything. The gag reflex that I have to hold back when I smell the air inside of that HOA, it's putrid. The air inside of the HOA, you need to take a seasickness pill to go into it. It's putrid air. What's it putrid with? White supremacist hypocrites. White supremacist hypocrites. I got kicked out of the HOA like around the first of the year, and by the time that the Veterans Day came, around 10 months later, they had a Veterans Day celebration over in the active adult for veterans. I'm a Vietnam era veteran. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. I got out with an honorable discharge. I was overseas in Iwakuni. I spent the full 4 years. I never got an early discharge. So I consider myself a Vietnam era veteran. Because I was kicked out of the HOA 7 years ago, this was when I got kicked out of the HOA. I got kicked out of the HOA about 7 years ago, and that first Veterans Day after I was kicked out of the HOA, I was still getting the mail. For about the first 6 months or a year that I was kicked out, I would still accept their email when they sent out email notices to everybody. So I got an email notice right after Veterans Day in 2000, what was it, 16? Might have been 16 or 17. It was right after, it was about 10 months after I got kicked out of the HOA. And they sent a video out. They wanted to show a video to all the people, must have been 16 or 17, to all the people and wanted to show the video of the Veterans Day celebration. And there was Craig Hustis. It started out with Craig Hustis pledging allegiance to the flag of America. They do that in Nazi rallies, American Nazi rallies. The first thing they do is do a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I've seen it now on YouTube. That's how all American Nazis start out their program. They pledge allegiance to the American flag. So here's Craig Hustis pledging allegiance to the American flag, and justice for all at the end. And the whole room was filled up with MAGA red hats. The next event I watched was one of the ladies, one of the white supremacist ladies, probably a red hat or an Eastern Star, got up there and said a prayer for Donald Trump. I couldn't get into that meeting. My key card was canceled. Even though I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps during Vietnam, I got drafted. I joined the Marines after I got drafted. I was really drafted. I was sold down the river by my hometown. We don't want his DNA among us. We'll offer this up. Well, I would have got out. It's a good thing I wouldn't have been in there. I would have got up and walked out of the room. The moment that lady got up and said a prayer for Donald Trump, I would have been exited. So I don't miss anything about being in the HOA. Like I said, it has a putrid funk odor to it that it makes me sick when I walk in there. So being kicked out wasn't a big deal because I wouldn't walk into it anyway. I don't want to do anything, but I'd like to be able to go to meetings. I'd like to have an input. And I don't like having Caroline Clinton, every time I call her on the phone for any reason, whether it's an accounting reason, a billing reason with my invoice, or anything like that, she immediately hangs up on me and says, through executive privilege, the lawyer has told me I don't have to talk to you. The board has told me I don't have to talk to you. So I'm not going to talk to you. You called the lawyer. Our lawyer. Please put this fella. I'll just play the, I don't care how long this goes. I don't care. This is therapy. I'm having a therapy lesson. If it lasts an hour, it lasts an hour. But I'm going to play this guy and I'm going to let you see just what he's all about. And thank God for him. Thank God for him. I was ready to go off the deep end because I had nowhere to turn. My family more or less stayed away from me. My girlfriend moved out.
Dr. Gary Solomon. I am a professor.
She was living in my other house. She moved out because she didn't want to deal with what I was getting into.
And I've been a tenured college psychology professor for about 15 years. I want to explain to you what this is going to be about. what you'll be able to get from it, and some of the problems that I hope will be solved as a result of my work. Let me give you some background. About 4 years ago, I started to notice problems with homeowners associations. They weren't directly evident to me when I first started, but I started to notice that neighborhoods seemed to be very flat, silent, unactive, lifeless. I could observe this from the deck of my home that I have that overlooks a portion of the city here in Las Vegas, Nevada. About the same time, I experienced having people come to my door randomly, without invitation, and say, "Excuse me, do you have any problems with your homeowners association?" I wasn't, but I thought that that was odd. And then I would stand on my deck and I would notice it, and at some point along the way, an awareness hit me. What's happening in the neighborhood, and later I would learn in neighborhoods throughout the country, is an enormous amount of stress and strain and issues and problems related to homeowners associations. Now, I can tell you that I began my work looking at the psychiatric effect. That is to say, I wanted to know what the psychological effect was of HOAs. I then started looking at the business-related issues involved with HOAs, and ultimately the political relationship. So what you're going to get from this site is an educational site. To my knowledge, there is no site available to anybody, any place in the country, where you can get a background, an education, an understanding, terms, concepts, and possible solutions to the frustrations that you're dealing with as it relates to homeowners associations. When you came to this site, you had to click on something that referred to the fact that I'm not supplying you with legal advice. And I'm going to emphasize this now for the last time. I'm not an attorney. I'm not telling you what to do legally. All of this is coming to you in my humble opinion. I do believe that as a result of my work, there is going to be a backlash, because what I'm saying is going to potentially affect the income of those individuals who work for management companies and collection companies who might be affected as a result of change. Finally, my goal here is one of not to produce income from this. I do act as consultants on various problems and cases. There are murders that have taken place throughout the country. There is more and more violence breaking out in homeowners associations across the country. Anger, frustration, stress, problems. I have made the conscious decision that I will not allow anybody to pay me for a service. The purpose for this is that I want no claim from anyone saying, I too was producing a business off of the back of the tragedies that are being created in homeowners association. Therefore, I invite you to take a journey through this website. It's been structured in such a way that it is simple, easy, and to the point. My goal is to answer every question that you might have relating to homeowners associations. I will also say to you that today is January 10th, 2013. I apologize, I haven't made the date change. For at least 1 year, I won't be having contact with people from the outside giving input. I don't want to be distracted from what I'm doing. But after a year, I will start taking in emails, contact, things that people would like to say. I will also warn you that all of those emails will be filtered. If what you want to say is to try and put down the work, if what you are is someone who makes money from people who are in trouble on their homes, and you want to try and say what a bad guy I am and what a horrible thing this is, you're going to be wasting your time, because any contact with me will be filtered. I'm only interested in trying to help those who have been hurt.
Okay, we'll stop here. That was a sample.
Elon Musk has bought 6,000 acres of farmland.
Okay. Every one of these, if you go to this website, he's got each one, you click on it, it might take you 2 or 3 days to get through it, but every one of these 6-minute, 7-minute, 5-minute, 8-minute lessons is going to give you background and let you know why the HOA is doing what it's doing. Okay? The HOA is all about money. And my problem is, if I was dealing with a straight HOA, what complicates my situation with an HOA, that I'm dealing with a golf course HOA. I'm dealing with an HOA that is very tied in, knotted, slave to the golf course. Whatever the golf course wants, the HOA goes along with it. Okay? And because of that, and you'll see in other videos that I make, but I'm going to stop here. I'm just suggesting, please listen to this fella. I think I've listened to all 101, and he's the one that says paid under protest. Every check I've written for the last 10 years for anything has been paid under protest. Okay? I have a right to do that. I have a right to pay under protest. Okay? But anyway, thank you for watching. I'm going to put this on YouTube. It's another therapy session for me. I hope it is for you. But I'm trying to prove for the courts, for the lawyers, that I've been trying. And again, if anybody sees this, it's on the board, or if the lawyers see it, or Caroline Clinton sees it, please make an appointment, call me up, bring all the board members, your architectural committee. If you want to go out and hire a couple of engineers, go hire a couple of engineers and surveyors. Come to my house and tell me how to finish my property. I want to get this across to Caroline right now. For approximately 7 to 8 years, everybody in my community and my neighborhood saw me most every day during the cool season working on my yard, moving dirt, sifting dirt, raking dirt, digging holes, laying down pipe, everything. I did that for until that last fine at $4,500. At Christmas last year, Christmas of 2022, I was expecting that when Christmas was over, I was going to continue working on my lot and putting more dirt, more rock, putting down more landscape fabric. But when I got that fine, and the reason for that fine was election interference. There was an election coming up for a board member, and the last thing they wanted was me to run for the board for a third time. And they didn't want my statement, my candidate statement anymore, criticizing Tract A. All right? So, it's hard to keep dialogue going. I was trying to make a point that well, I'm kind of frustrated. I hope everybody understands. Anybody's tried to make a video. I just had a a senior moment. My mind completely locked up. I'm trying to get as much out as possible. I'll stop here.